If this is literature, then I'm illiterate. Listen, I have a lot of thoughts. Before we get into it, hi, hello, welcome to another episode of Literary Liberation Podcast. Today we will be discussing, analyzing, and reviewing, and I'm using those very loosely because this is just going to be a trash talk session. This is going to be a little bit different, I think, than some of our episodes in the past.
So y'all have heard
but
of
the teacher,
WWE SmackDown. That's what we're about to do to Freida Mcfadden and the teacher.
by Freida Mcfadden. So that's what we're going to discuss. For more content outside of the podcast, please check out our Instagram and TikTok at Literary Liberation and Twitter at LitLibPodcast. I'm your co-host, Mariah, and you can find me at Hungry Rye on all social media platforms.
And I'm your co-host, Kristen. You can find me at KRXXTXN on all social media platforms.
The only social media, though, that Kristen really posts regularly to is your bookstagram. You never link it. It's 10's TBR.
Yeah, but I don't
Too
post on there
shy.
that often either, so...
Well, you should. You should.
Most of the posts end up being Literary Liberation, I think. On it. Anyways, so let's go back a few months. It was February. It was late at night. The only book we were reading for the podcast was The Bluest Eye. I don't know if anyone else listening to this podcast has listened to The Bluest Eye. Pretty heavy book. Not really something you should be reading at 1, 2 a.m. before bed, especially if you want the full understanding, the full comprehension, the full analysis to really think about what you're consuming reading. I'm scrolling through Kindle Unlimited. I'm like, oh, Freida Mcfadden had this book that came out. Everyone talks about it. I read The Housemaid. It didn't wow me necessarily, but it was fine. It was a book. I read it. It kept me entertained. We ended up reading all 3 of them and doing them for the podcast. So I was like, okay, there's no way that this book can be like that bad. At least it'll be entertainment. And I read it, and I think it ruined my life for the worse. And I've been talking about it since then, telling Mariah she needs to read it because it's dog shit.
It's been like the elephant in the room, the lingering ghost of Christmas past that Kristen has been dragging along, waiting for the moment to discuss this on our public platform. And here it is. It's finally come into fruition. If you don't know what this is, I mean, it's a thriller. Like, Freida Mcfadden writes thrillers, and
Yes.
it's about a student at this high school and teachers
That
and
are
I
at the school.
I refuse to read anything about, like, I just went into it and I read it.
I don't know, because, like,
I
the thing
don't
is you can't say anything without spoiling it, but it's also, like, this is not something that I think should be consumed in any way, shape, or form, but, like, if you want to read it, then you should read it, but basically it's just about this lady that is a teacher at her school, and she basically hates her husband, and she got beef with her husband, and it's, like, the new school year, and drama happens, basically. And, like, if you've read another Freida Mcfadden book, I think you can kinda know the, like at least, like, with the way the Housemaid books were, they just be, like, out of pocket sometimes and, like, completely random, like, I will say that,
there's
like
like a structure to her stories. Like, like, okay, this is gonna happen, then X is gonna happen, then Y. There's a formula that she follows. You can
the
tell.
50% mark, everything flips, basically, too.
Yes.
So, like, that's the thing, is that, like, the first half of the book, it's not good, but it's fine. It's just stupid. And the ending of the book is just absolute horseshit. Probably the worst thing I've ever read in my life. Made it a waste of my damn time. I was actually, like, physically, like, sick to myself after I read that. I was like, this is absolutely horrible. And the fact that people like this and it's rated so highly was, like, pissing me off.
I didn't because this book just came out within the last like year and a half. It came out February of 2024, so it's not an old book, and yet it has amassed over 776,000 ratings on Goodreads. 75,000 written ratings, and a 3.91 stars. And according to Kristen's rubric, usually anything that's over a 3.5 star is usually a decent book.
I think
This is
no,
one
I
of those
think it's a 4
instances.
star. 4 stars
At this
whenever
point,
it's a good star.
are we
No,
moving
it's
it
been a
now?
4 star. You can ask
You
Tyler.
said, like, 3.5 and on. You're like, "Usually there's,
No,
like,
I
a chance
say if
it's
it's
good."
at the 3.5 or like, if it's a 3.5 to 4 star, it's probably fine, but if it's over a 4 star, you can ask Tyler. I've always said over a 4 star, it's certified good on Goodreads.
Yeah, usually 4 star is, like, my thing. I'm like, "Okay, if it has a 4 star," and this is very close. 3.91
Yeah, that's
is
crazy. That's
teetering
still
on
too
an
high.
edge. Ratings, most people are rating it, like, through 5 4-star ratings, about, what, 70% of ratings are sitting around that. I did not feel the urge to read through the reviews on this. I'm gonna be honest, normally I can go through it. No,
I don't even
I can
know.
do it to myself.
I don't even know what people are praising it for, to be honest, because, like, there's nothing to praise, to be honest. Like, I think people think that shocking matter because they didn't expect certain things to happen, because, like, I will say the ending of this, crazy. I didn't see half of it coming, which is not usual, I think, for a lot of the thrillers I read, but I think it's also because this stuff is, like, it's so dog shit that, like, I think a good thriller novel is that, like, it'll have seeds sprinkled throughout early on so that you could see, like, even if there is a plot twist that maybe it's not the biggest plot twist because they were able to allude to it and it makes sense for the story. Versus this, the ending is just so, like, out of left field. You're just like, "What the fuck?" Like, you're just like, these conclusions don't make sense for the story that you've been reading.
Exactly, and especially when you are reading a book, which if you don't know, there absolutely should be content warning or trigger warnings listed at the front of this book. I went back through, looked at the copy on KU. There's nothing. There's nothing. There should be a trigger warning for grooming and child abuse. I'm gonna be honest. I don't know why it's not
CSA,
on there. It's
straight up.
really, really fucking bad. But yeah, you're getting a lot more. Obviously, it's not completely flushed out, but it's
It's
there.
still
You're
there,
getting
significantly.
information. I would hate for somebody to, like, hear just the front part of this because we're in, like, the non-spoiler zone and be like, "Okay, I'm gonna pause here, go into this knowing that is a relevant theme," because I knew something was gonna happen because of Kristen, however, it's
Yeah.
not at the front of the book
Well,
at
because
all, which is
I think
crazy.
it's really interesting because the books we've kind of been reading this year, like, we've read My Dark Vanessa earlier this year, and we read, like, The Bluest Eye, which are also stories that have a big focus on, like, children abuse and, like, CSA and stuff like that. So, the fact that in those novels, they're actually, like, commentary on it, and it's not just done for, like, shock value or whatever. There's a reason why it's done versus in this, there's no commentary on it. It's just to do it to be like, "Oh my god, isn't this crazy? This happens to people. Whoa."
Give me my money. Readers, give me my money. That's honestly what this was, like, I feel like she just came up with the most random shit. If you don't know, I rated it half a star. I don't actually know what you rated it on Storygraph.
I think I
I gave
gave
it
it 1
half. I was like,
star.
I didn't even feel it deserved a one-star rating, truthfully.
I mean, I read the whole book in, like, 2 days. Because I will say it was out of pocket, and the ending, I can't wait to talk about the ending because it's so bad. It pissed me off so bad. And, like, I think it can be good for certain books to have, like, a crazy ending, but this is not even, like, crazy or, like, subversive, I guess you would say in, like, anyways. It's just, like, this is like coworker books. This is like, you know what I'm saying? Like that genre of like people that don't like the Colleen Hoover people. Like straight up, if you like Colleen Hoover, you probably would love Freida Mcfadden. And I can see sort of like the parallels because I think Verity, which is like Colleen Hoover's only thriller, which I read very quickly too. It's kind of like a similar premise where it's like these authors don't know how to like nurture and breed a character properly. They're just, like, setting characters in these random situations while not saying anything about them.
And obviously, I can't speak to all of Colleen Hoover's work. I've only read Ugly Love,
Oh, I've read
but
a
I
couple,
have
so
read 4 of Freida Mcfadden's book, and it's very apparent that one, I don't think she knows how to write women, which is kinda crazy, yet let alone
She
young
can't
women.
write anybody.
The teenage dialogue does not make any sense,
It's
especially for a
so
story
bad.
that's set in 2024. It doesn't make any sense. It and it happened in The Housemaid 3, the 3rd
Yes.
one, where there was a younger, kind of like middle school?
Ye I think
Middle
it was
grade.
elementary
Um,
school. She was young.
maybe even elementary school. She was really young, um, but it felt like an adult trying to, like,
How do you
writing a
do,
child.
fellow
I don't
children?
know.
Meme. It's straight up the Steve Buscemi meme. Well, cause like, the thing is whenever I was reading, I didn't even highlight that many quotes because I was just, like, in shock reading it. Like, I'm just sitting there like it's like watching like, straight up, this is watching a car crash if it were a book, but worse.
But it's, like, boring too. I don't know what it was, because 'cause I've read listen, I've gotten into, like, the traumances and read, like, the really fucked up dark romances where it's, like, it's not but you can't look away, right? Those have something going for them, because 'cause I'm like, "What is this author gonna do next?" This one,
That's
I
how
you
this book
don't
is, though,
know
I think.
what's going on, though. Like, I couldn't figure
Yeah.
out what the thriller aspect of it was until about the 70% mark, because I was texting Kristen. I was like, where is the thriller? Where's the thrilling?"
I
And
think the idea
it
is
really doesn't come until the very end.
it's more of, like, a mystery, I would say, in, like, the first half. Because
Yes,
all
I would
you
agree.
know is from, like, the teenage, because you get 2 women's perspectives. You get the
We're
female
in the
teacher.
spoilers, yes?
I wasn't gonna say anything too
I would just
spoilerly, because you get
should
the
we just
female
send it?
teacher. I don't know. Do you think people are still listening if they haven't read? Because, like, the thing is that, like, you get 2 perspectives, right? You get a teenage girl and then one of her teachers, basically, right? But
And a
then
grown woman.
yes, one of her teachers.
Yeah, but you
um,
didn't say it's relevant. It's relevant to the story that it is a wife.
of this man.
Another teacher, yes.
Yes. She has 2 teachers. She's in high school. She's got multiple teachers, probably one for every subject, I would assume. Um, but basically she has this teacher, like, the teacher, like, they don't really have any strong interactions either with each other until, like, way past the halfway mark. So I think you're sitting here reading this because 'cause you're, like, trying to follow these 2 characters that basically have no interactions with each other, and then you're trying to understand how they end up interacting together in the end. Because then you also get the beginning chapter where it's like the prologue. You're like, digging a grave is hard. I'm so tired from digging this grave." And they're like, "Whoa." And they're like, "Oh, whose perspective is this gonna be? Is this girl gonna kill her teacher? Is this teacher gonna kill this little girl?" And those are the
So,
questions you ask. And that's
don't read this.
I would
Period.
say not
Don't
to.
do it. It's 362 pages was mine. I think it's so much better if you just didn't subject yourself to this. We do it because we love you. We care for you on a spiritual level. I would never force somebody to do this, but I will martyr myself in this way, and I will forever be stuck with this book and knowing what the lowest low of the
The
current state
problem
of
with it
American literature
too
is.
is that you're lucky. You read My Dark Vanessa first. And so I read My Dark Vanessa after the fact of reading this, and I feel like that could have affected my enjoyment of the critique of My Dark Vanessa, because I think this is the dollar store version of My Dark Vanessa. If it took all of the important aspects of My Dark Vanessa and just left it as, like, teacher grooming.
Yeah, because you don't get at least so, like, if you follow me on Threads, I posted a little. I didn't think it was all that crazy.
She
It's
reheated my
pretty generic.
nachos.
I didn't know that you had said this, but also there's other people that have been saying it, so who the chicken or the egg?
I
Anyways,
said it
people have been in the
first.
comments of this. There was a comment on the Reddit 10 months ago, so I don't know, take it up with them. But I said Freida Mcfadden is the Colleen Hoover of the thriller genre, derogatory, and then I keep having people comment, they're like, "I'm in enemy territory," but there was one person in particular that really frustrated me, and they said, "Books don't need to be literary masterpieces to be enjoyable." Here's the thing with this, the nature of this book, what it is doing, if you're sensationalizing or using traumatic events just for the shock value and not having any, like, meaningful commentary going on or building up these characters, what is the utility of doing that? Like, who is that helping? Like, that's a
No.
crazy thing
It's literally
to
the
put
problem.
in there.
Like, it pisses me off so bad because it's literally, like, whenever especially whenever it starts, is that, like, it almost feels like a parody of, like, what actually happens to people. Like, we know, like, this is a serious issue that happens to children in school sometimes, you know? Like, we talked about it a lot in, like, My Dark Vanessa. Like, this is, like, a regular thing because, like, somebody was reading My Dark Vanessa and they were like, "Oh, this is, like, based off of this story." And she's like, "No, it's fictional." But somebody's, like, one-to-one relationship was exactly the same because this is an actual issue that goes on, especially with, like, sexual assault in general and, like, children's sexual assault and things like that. The fact that the way that this is done is just used for a plot is criminal. They need to do what they did to that lady that wrote that book in Australia. They need to do that to Freida Mcfadden. Like, I think
I no, I was thinking about that, like, the what is it, Daddy's Little Secret or
yeah.
something, Daddy's Little Toy, whatever
Yeah,
the fuck
whatever
it was
that is.
called, and people were trying to compare it like, "No, it's like My Dark Vanessa." No, it's not. No, it's not, and this is not like My Dark Vanessa either,
No.
except it feels like thievery. There's too many, like,
Parallels,
comparisons,
yeah.
right? Parallels that could be
Whatever you wanna call
taken
it.
that is what gets me, but it doesn't until, like, the fucking very end where she's like, actually" and literally in my head, we get to the very end, it was like the Oprah Winfrey, like, "Oh, you're a groomer, you're getting groomed."
Yeah.
Like, there's 4 people that got groomed and 2 groomers. That's fucking crazy.
It pissed me off so bad because, like, in the image, it's like, "Actually, my family calls me Jay," or whatever. I was like, "Say that again?"
Yeah, you find out that Addie's best friend, right, was actually
It's
being groomed by the math teacher, and then you
yes.
find out that the math teacher was actually groomed by her husband, who was a new grad, teacher. Like,
Yeah.
stop.
It's
Stop,
like
like, it
it's like a grooming steps, like, "Oh, let's go up one step. First, we have this random regular guy groomer," which is like I feel like it wouldn't have been so atrocious if it wasn't, like, also the teacher that you were rooting for the whole time was also a groomer. I was like, "Hello?"
it's so crazy. There was no
And, like,
reason
the thing
to
is
do that.
what was so crazy, uh, was, like, whenever, like, he works at this shoe store, right? And she made it seem I thought it was, like, a grown man, like, the way that she described him all the time was, like, an adult man, blah, blah, blah. Like, I thought he was, like, 40 with kids. Like, I was imagining balding man because why is a teenager going to the back of his fucking store into the stock room, having sex with a lady, and closing up a store by himself? Whatever that shoe store is, you need to fire your employees. Hello?
You know what's crazy is that when I was looking for the content warnings and the trigger warnings, I stumbled across the very end that where it like Freida McFadden, like many authors at the very end, they're like, if you want to read another unputdownable thriller or whatever, like you go past the dedications. But then there was another one, and it was she was like, I need to clarify this because people are wondering. Yes, the English teacher knew that Jay was a student the whole time. Like she was not
You mean the math
delusional. Like
teacher
she
now?
yeah, yes, the math teacher, Eve or
Eve.
whatever.
Yeah.
She was very aware because people are I guess we're confused. They're like, "What do you mean?" Because she had like a wife. Like she was
No, she never
deluding
said
herself
that there
into
was a
thinking
wife.
that.
She like, the thing is that, like, specifically, because it ends up recontextualizing. You know that he has a family at home and that he takes care of the baby, which you also end up knowing from Addie's perspective or whatever her name was, that her best friend basically ended up has to take care of all his younger siblings or whatever. I don't remember what was going on with his family or whatever. I guess they were a whack or whatever, but he ended up, like, being the breadwinner for his family. Like, this is an established dynamic that Addie mentions early on in the book. And so that's why whenever at the end it's like, "Oh, actually he was a student." But then she was like acting like he was the one with a baby. I think that's like where like the poorly written aspect of it is too because it's just like, "Oh, like what's the craziest thing I can think of?" Oh, yeah, that he wasn't actually a manager of this fucking establishment at all. He was another high schooler. Hello? It's actually crazy to me. It's baffling. And it pissed me off too whenever she died. But she came back to life twice. 2 times.
That also didn't really make any sense to me because I was like, "Okay, it's gotta be somebody else." But no,
That's
then
what no.
magically everything is, like, fine in the end, which I don't get. How everything was just
This lady gets
okay.
beat in the head with a pan. I don't even remember what killed her the first time. Did he just, like,
Yeah,
strangle
she
her?
got the first one, she got hit 3 times with the frying pan,
Well, she
very,
got
like,
there's
tangy.
something happened to her first where and then he was like, "Oh, I gotta go get the sheets." And then she wakes up and she's like, "Addie, help me." And then she's like, bang, bang, bang with the pan. So I was just saying
No,
hi
no, so Addie was, like, talking to her because she, like, broke into the house, right?
okay.
And she's like, "What are you doing here?" And then she's trying to, like Eve's trying to tell her, like, "No, he's, like, manipulating you and taking advantage of you."
Yeah, you would
And
know,
Addie
huh?
seems to handle and she just, like, wham, and just, like, doesn't stop hitting her. Then she calls Nate off of her phone, Eve's phone.
Yeah, because she
It's like,
gets
"Hey, you need to come here." And then he's like, "Okay, go upstairs." So Addie's upstairs looking for a sheet, and she's like, "I'm gonna get a navy sheet because white sheets are gonna show it's she's getting married, I don't fucking know where your mind's at, so Nate's downstairs with her,
yeah,
and she wakes up and she's like, "Wait, hold on,"
yeah.
and he's,
And
like,
then he
choking and she
strangles
comes
her.
down and
Okay,
he's,
I got
like,
it mixed up.
shaking his shoulders, and she thinks that he's crying, but really he's trying to kill her again, but apparently doing a really poor job about it,
Can't even do it, bro. And then they start burying her alive, and then she's able to unbury herself.
because she was buried under leaves.
But she still was burying her for a bit. You know what I'm saying? Like, cause she talks about
Yeah,
there's still gotta
it's
be some type of soil there, bruh.
it doesn't make any sense, like, none of this makes any sense, and I have been sitting here I didn't think it was gonna be this highly rated. I didn't think this many people had read it. I
I told you
am
it
a
was
little bit
crazy.
perplexed. That is what gets me is how an author could how could you do this? But I don't know. I don't have anything to say about, like, the content of the book because it wasn't like, they're really I was bored, like, a lot of it reads very fast. The chapters which listen, I am critical of very long chapters, but they're so short, you're
That's
not
Freida
getting
Mcfadden,
anything.
though. That's how all
It's
of her shit
really
is, cause
bad.
that's how The Housemaid was too, and it pissed me off. But it's like, I don't even know, like, I can understand the plagiarism ideas that because I don't know if we talked about it either. There's like people are talking about obviously this is all like speculation and stuff, but people online because I had it whenever I made that comment too on TikTok where somebody was like, "Yeah, and she plagiarizes people." And I was like, "What? I didn't know about plagiarism." And they're like, "Yeah, like she ends up not necessarily like plagiarism, but she takes like major plot points and uses them as twists in her book and, like, the teacher with My Dark Vanessa, and, like, I think it's crazy to me how similar, like, My Dark Vanessa and the teacher are. It's, like, as if you got rid of, like, just the 2017 reflection of it, which is so important to My Dark Vanessa too.
Well, and, like, with My Dark Vanessa, I think what Freida Mcfadden was trying to do with the twist at the end was showing, like, how, like, cycles of, like, violence and when you're being manipulated could, like, recreate itself, which you see in My Dark Vanessa manifest a little bit differently in a way
Mhm.
in my head that makes more logical sense where I don't wanna spoil it. I don't wanna spoil My Dark Vanessa, to be honest. So if you haven't read My Dark Vanessa, you really should. I think put your time
Especially
into
if you
that,
read
not into this.
this.
Um, yeah, if you have read this and you have read My Dark Vanessa, I urge you to do it because it's so interesting. I was seeing all of the parallels as it was
Yes.
happening,
Well,
and
because you
then
have
I
it with,
don't
like,
know
the
about the
English
other book.
teacher, and then
I
the
know,
the English teacher and
poetry, the
club.
poetry,
The poetry class or club that they have after
this is
school,
like side eye.
the
Okay.
edgy, like, only one other person that's in this club.
Yes, that too. We had Lotus, um, which honestly, I'm surprised. I thought Lotus was also gonna be the one that was getting groomed, but oh no, then we find out that it was actually
The
the
mean
bully.
popular girl.
I was just like, "Okay."
Yeah. Sucks for her
He grew
too.
me when I was 14, and I
Yeah.
okay.
Just a serial
Dude,
assaulter that has a See, and the thing is too, is that, like, the way that Freida McFadden writes her characters too is, like, it's really interesting to me because, like, there was that whole scene with, like, the cop or whatever, and the cop, like, trying to get Addie to snitch, and she just wouldn't, and it was, like, so infuriating to, like, even portray the cops as being that helpful in any way, shape, or form, and then also the way that Addie is just, like, she understands, like, abuse too, because like, her father was abusive to, like, her and her mom, right? And stuff like that, which is why she ends up ultimately killing him, which is, like, crazy thing that happened where she was the one that pushed him down the stairs. Um,
Oh, yeah, first plot twist. Oh my gosh.
yeah, and that's why her best friend doesn't wanna be best friends with her anymore because he witnessed her murder her dad. And then and so it's like you understand how abuse is and stuff like that, but then you can't see your own abuse happening right to you in front of you and everything. And then I feel like Freida McFadden tries to like write herself out of like using like the sexual assault as like a plot point whenever she's like, "Oh, Addie's just a victim." From Eve's perspective, she'd be like, "Oh, Addie's just a victim. He's manipulating her and stuff like that." It's like, okay, so you didn't think that about yourself, like looking back? Like, you think that would have popped up in your own internal monologue beforehand then whenever, "Oh, I was actually groomed by him too."
It's I don't I don't understand because then, like, you get at the very end, like, I get why Eve's parents did not
Not
like the
like
fact that they got married.
yeah, who can
I'm
blame
like,
him?
"Oh, well,
Me too, yeah, get him out of
it's"
here. But
I
it's
just
like
think it needs to come to an end. Freida McFadden should have quit while she was ahead, even though there was problems with, like, the housemaid and the second one and the third one, like, I have my crits of them. It's always with, like, police procedural stuff that's going on too. It's like, that's not what happens in real life, and maybe that's
it's
what's so thrilling about
propaganda.
it. It's like, "Wow, oh my god, this could
Murder
be
gets
if"
solved? We had a competent police force solving crimes?
This is this is, like, what, the, like, 11% of crimes that actually get solved, and it's just in Freida McFadden's books.
But it doesn't even get solved because the only justice that happens is Eve ends up killing Nate, and then, like, they hide his body or whatever, and then it's like a goodbye Earl situation where it's like, "Oh, he was a missing person that nobody was really missing at all."
Yeehaw. That's
It's like,
that's I literally
"Okay."
don't have, like, any other thoughts, like, I was just happy when it came to an end. I was like, "Oh my god, I did it. Wow. Go me." I wanted to quit many times, and I would have been better off quitting, like, this is one of those things, if you're reading this
Yeah.
book and I'm assuming if you've gotten this far, you probably have read it or you just don't care, but there's at no point in this where you could DNF it and it would be a bad choice. You could read page 1 and be like, "Hey, I'm done." And I would be proud of you. Do it.
I just couldn't believe that this is, like, a novel that is published and, like, you see it at, like, the front store of every bookstore and stuff like that, and, like, I did not like the Housemaid trilogy at all, like, it was fine. I prefer other thrillers, typically, but originally picking it up, I was like, "Okay, it won't be bad, but it'll be entertaining enough that I don't have to worry about, like, picking a read late at night, right, for the next couple of days." And I was just like shell shocked at what this was and how it was made and how people are enjoying it and how people read this and are like, "Oh my god, this is crazy." Because it's just crazy for the sake of being crazy. It's not crazy for the sake of critiquing society or critiquing the world on why this happens.
See, I feel like what you do with thrillers, what I do with dark romance books, where you just, like, pick one and you're like, "I know this is gonna be bad," and you have to read it and see it through.
Well, I didn't think this was gonna be bad. I thought it was gonna be, like, fine. I thought it'd be, like, entertaining. Like, I thought it was just gonna be, like, whatever. I thought it was gonna be like a serial killer teacher or something like that. I didn't think it was gonna be children being assaulted. Like, what? Hello?
Okay, so if you were to pick another author, right? Like, what I don't even know anything about, like, the thriller genre. Like, I feel pretty familiar with some, like, romance authors. I feel like I know a lot of the big names at this point because 'cause I've been around the block a little bit, experienced seasoned, but thriller, I don't know what thriller talk is reading. I just know about Freida McFadden,
I've read
which
4
I
thrillers this year,
I
and
would
all of them
hope
have been
that this would
asked.
not be sorry, it's gonna sound like a train track or a train station, but if I would hate that Freida Mcfadden is, like, the staple of the thriller genre in the same way that I know that romance is so there's so much variety in comparison to, like, Colleen Hoover is just, like, the tip of the iceberg. She's just a popular author who writes shitty books with traumatic themes for
I
sensational whatever.
think the thing with, like, thriller, and then I'm assuming it's probably pretty similar with, like, dark romance, is that because their themes are usually so dark and, like, twisted and not necessarily typical, I think that, like, they could be, like, the worst thing you ever read, but then also, like, the best thing you ever read. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's so divisive in that way because there's no way you could have, like, a perfect umbrella for everything that goes on in, like, a thriller, because the subject matter is
I
so.
guess. I mean, I feel like we read a couple, like The Silent Patient and The Perfect
Mhm.
Marriage, which are, like, 2 other ones. I know
Yeah,
Geneva Rose has
and
another
we d
book. I think it's a sequel
yeah, The Perfect
or
Divorce or
something.
whatever. That just came out,
Yeah.
I think. And then we did A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, which I think Holly Jackson. I think YA thriller is typically what I prefer too because, like, if it is, like, murder, it's a little bit more, like, silly, goofy fun rather than this just trying to like, this it would be silly, goofy fun if it was, like, actually silly, goofy fun, you know?
I thought Addie was gonna be, like, killing all her teachers. Honestly, I
That
thought
would've
that's
been
what was gonna
awesome.
happen. I was like, "Okay." But that didn't happen. I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, alright."
I do think
But
Geneva Rose is pretty popular because I have heard about one of her other books too. I don't
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Home
it's
is
the
Where the
5
Bodies Are, this one.
am I
Wrote
thinking of the same one?
looks like a VHS tape. Mm.
Yes. I get that, and then the one by you read it, Holly Jackson, confused. I
The
don't know why.
disappearance of Rachel Price, or the reappearance of Rachel
Yes.
Price. I
Yeah, 'cause
think
that one has, like, the thing on the front, like the
yeah,
I don't know what
the
the
little
fuck it's called.
clapper, the scene
Clapper.
clapper. I mean, Notes on an Execution also is, like, my favorite thriller that I've ever read my entire life, you
That
know?
was perfection. I think that set the standard a little bit too high, and perhaps
Yeah.
that's the issue because it's like, "Okay, I know what can be. It could be better." Um, in
Yeah,
the
and I
same way that I have read, like, so many, like, good fantasy novels since I had started, and we were just kinda, like, getting back into reading, like at least I was, fiction, and I read
mhm.
ACOTAR, and I was like, "Wow, this is, like, really entertaining." But now I've read so much other stuff that if I ever did, like, a reread of it, it would just not
No, it's
it would
just too
not hit.
trope. I think the problem is, especially too with book talk, like, a lot of, like, what's popular in its entirety is people reading for tropes rather than reading for content, which I don't understand. Like, me and Mariah, like, I've seen, like, people on TikTok where they just, like, read the same shit over and over and over again. Like, they'll read hundreds of books a year, but then they'll all be, like, romance books, and it's just, like, the same tropes over and over again, which is, like, fine. Like, I understand, like, I'm sure I'm not reading, like, the most different and unique thing every time I'm reading, but I do try to mix it up sometimes because I can't just sit there and read only the same thing over and over again, especially with romance because the whole point of romance is that you know they get together in the end, you know?
Yeah. I don't get it either. Some people, that's, like, all they do. They will read, like, one specific genre,
Yeah.
and it fascinates me because that's not me. That's not me at
No.
all. I'm
Like, I
not
have to
like
mix
other
it up.
girls. I'm
Well,
just built I'm just different. No, but
I think that's
think
probably
it's
people that
cool. I
like
wanna, like, pick
trope
their brain.
reading. I think that's people that like trope reading, that like reading specific tropes, and I feel like with trope reading, you can end up falling into a cycle of you ended up getting books like Freida Mcfadden's absolute garbage, hot train wreck of a fucking book because all she does is play into tropes and, like, shock value
Yeah.
rather than trying to say something. And I think that can be fine if it wasn't like, specifically children being assaulted in this book, I think is, like, where my problems lie. I think, like, if Addie's storyline was, like, cut pretty much, and then, like, the math teacher also being a groomer was cut, I feel like this would probably just be, like, a three-star read. Probably wouldn't be as shocking, but it wouldn't be horrific either.
I think the next book that is of a similar vein, it's not obviously like this, is Tampa. We have Tampa on our list. I know it
Oh,
covers similar subject matter, but I've heard it's more similar to the way that My Dark Vanessa is structured. I do think at some point in the podcast, I hopefully we take a break from reading groomer stories.
that's what I'm saying.
Or
Yeah, I'm done with groomers
sorry,
this year,
I
bro.
don't.
That's, like, all
It's
we've
a
been
lot.
reading
It's
this
a very
year.
heavy topic, so I don't want to do that. Maybe next year we'll
Yeah.
cover it. But it's just not something I wanna, like I didn't know it was gonna be I didn't know it was gonna be like this. Started out with a kiss. How did it end up like
I
this?
literally told you it was gonna be like this, though, that's the thing.
I I knew it was gonna I didn't know it was going to be the entire plot motivator. I just knew it was gonna be part of the plot, but then the whole
I
thing.
literally told you it's only used to move the plot forward. It's not used for any other reason other than the plot subject
It's
matter.
almost unfathomable, like, telling somebody that because like, there's no there's no way, like, how do you write 362 words and that's it? It doesn't make any sense.
Like, it's really sad too because, like, you have with Addie, like, being one of the main characters and stuff, and, like, she's sitting here and, like, she's obviously got mental illness. I mean, she killed her own father, which, like, not saying I don't respect what she did. I understand her father was an abuser, but it's also, like, her then being adamantly anti-victim, which, like, it makes sense for Vanessa's story in My Dark Vanessa because, like, she views herself as not a victim in My Dark Vanessa, but then in this, you have Addie who views herself as not a victim, but then you never even see her, like, do anything about it. She doesn't even, like, acknowledge it. Like, it's never a thought that, like, pops into her mind, which is, like, in My Dark Vanessa, that's something that because, like, it's related to the Me Too movement and focus so victim focused, it makes sense. Versus this is, like, obviously you are focusing on the victims, but you're not getting any reflection from any victims or critique on society from any victims or anything like that.
Just don't read it, man. Just don't.
Well, I'm
I
assuming
can't
at this point you
please.
probably don't
I'm begging you. I'll pay you. No, not really.
I'm glad I didn't
There's
pay
not a
for
lot
this
to
book.
analyze. Yeah, I mean, it's included in the subscription. It was on KU.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. Imagine
Um,
if you went and bought a physical copy of this book and then you read it.
this is the last time my Kindle screen will ever depict this monstrosity. And I'm so
And, like,
happy.
I read this and it made me never wanna read Freida Mcfadden again.
It was really like turned me off.
And Mariah gave The Housemaid 5 stars, by the way.
I really liked The Housemaid. I was super
Just
taken back. I
saying.
read it in a day, 24 hours. I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is crazy."
That
Like,
doesn't mean it's
I
good.
I
That
could
does
read
not mean it
that.
gets 5 stars.
No, like, obviously, like, in hindsight, I probably wouldn't give it a five-star rating, but it was very entertaining. I could not put it down. However, the other ones below, they are so bad.
I feel like the next book we're gonna have to do the next thriller book we need to do, we're gonna have to do Verity by Colleen Hoover whenever the movie comes out. Cause I feel like that book is, like, crazy too. It's actually insane.
I don't want to. I don't wanna do it.
Think about the clicks.
This is what happens. I'm being
You
bullied
make me read
into
books
reading
I don't
things.
wanna read. I had to
We
read The
can go through maybe
Dispossessed.
we could that was the book club, though. You can't just blame me entirely.
Yeah, but you're the one that put it on the list.
Yeah. And it was a popular pick. It got really good reviews in our book club. So, also speaking of club, good
Book club.
segue. If you would like to join our book club, you should because we're reading a book, and I
The
don't know what
Long
happened to
Way
it.
to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers.
Crazy. It was on my shelf. No, it's in my bag. I got it in my bag to read outside when I'm in the sun. Yes, it's for Pride
Um,
Month. We picked a gay book. So,
yes.
Is there smut? I don't know. It's a series apparently. I didn't know that.
I knew
But
it was a
people really like
series.
it.
It's
Can't go
her
wrong with that. I still wanna read, A Psalm in the Wild or whatever,
yeah.
'cause they're short. I think that would be cool to
I'm not
read.
reading that
Maybe I'll
because I've heard it's
prioritize that.
cozy fantasy and, like,
It's,
soft.
like, less than 200 pages though, so I was like, "Eh," I mean, worst case scenario, I don't like it, but I could get through that. If it
Yeah,
was really long, I wouldn't.
but the way people describe it is just not for me. I like a little bit more something going on rather than just, like, chill
Speaking
vibes.
of which, currently on the TBR
I've
is
been
the
waiting to
Dungeon
read
Anarchist
it because
Cookbook.
I wanted to finish it right whenever we record, so it's fresh, and so I haven't been reading it. I've just been reading Silver Lee and talk about another dog shit fucking book.
I can't do that
This
right. I couldn't do, like, The Teacher
the problem with
and Silver
Silver
Lee. That's
Elite
too much.
is that it's all like, you say that, like, this book like, The Teacher is boring. Not compared to this, bro. This book is 528 pages long, and it's snooze fest, bro. Tell me why I'm like, this is not like me saying anything, but like I'm 250 pages in, and like the romance they haven't even touched each other, bro.
Well, isn't that what you like?
Well, yes, if they actually have chemistry, the
Oh, that does create some problems.
it's literally just like so stupid. It's like fake. I think the idea is that it's supposed to be like enemies to lover, but it's not enemies to lover because like the first page, she's like, "Oh my god, he's so hot. I wish he could be a whore and people would love him." I'm like,
Oh my god. Hopefully, I'm gonna try to pace it for whenever something's gonna happen with it, and I'm gonna have it going in the background this next month.
I
As
don't think nothing's
Kristen
gonna happen
won't
to
be
it
here. This is getting filmed before Kristen's going
on
on a
vacation.
cruise.
Yeah.
Did you have
Um.
anything else you wanna throw in before
Well,
we
next week's
wrap this
episode
bitch up?
will be Dungeon Crawler Carl's doomsday
Excited.
scenario. Don't read this book. Maybe don't ever give Freida McFadden any money ever again. Because I don't think I will. I don't think I will.
No. Get it used, honestly, if you can find it. I know it's so mass printed at this point. I see her books sometimes at used bookstores, so go check it out if you really want to do it that way. If you want to do it that way, don't give her money. Let her stop. Don't feed the trolls, you know? Don't do it.
Okay, thank you and good night.